is going on, everybody? It's your boy AJ, and I'm in for a live stream, another live stream today. I am talking about movies and shows that I personally own to get you in the Halloween spirit. I know Halloween is not for another 2 months, 2.5 months. But I wanted to get in on this early. I wanted to get in on this a little bit early. As you may know, I am going on hiatus soon. So this is just all the Halloween content that I'm gonna be able to, get in. So let's get this thing started. First off, I wanted to talk about I wanted to say, this is what I wanted to say before I got anything like truly started is that not every single film in this collection or what I'm going to show off today is a horror film. It's not all horror. Sometimes it just gets you in the mood. It's kind of like gives that fall vibe, like that. There are a lot of horror films here, but not everything is strictly horror. So I want to say that up front before I start showing something and people are like, oh, that's not a horror movie. What are you talking about? It's not all horror. It's just the things to kind of get you in the mood for Halloween, Halloween time, the fall time, things like that. So yeah, we just gonna get this thing started. Yeah, because we got a lot to discuss. So the first film is kind of like that. It's not quite a horror film, but it does have some horror elements, and you can watch it during the fall time to get a little spooky. Get a little spooky. Let's get into the comments real quick first. Tony, what's going on? Tony Movie Chappie. Hey AJ, what's going on? The first one is Jurassic Park. This movie is a phenomenal movie. You can watch it really any time of the year. But towards the third act, there's a scene that involves a kitchen and raptors that is truly terrifying. So I think this is a great film to watch around this time to kind of get you started in the mood of Halloween. But yeah, this is a great film. Something right there. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so and I'm glad that I own this on 4K. I got the individual slipcover for this one and Jurassic Park 3. Jurassic Park 3 isn't in this because I feel like that's not as like horror. Like this does have some horror elements to it. The third one, not so much. So yeah, Jurassic Park. Next up is Perfect Blue. This film is more like a psychological thriller. It's not quite straight full-on horror, but it does have some horror elements to it. I suggest this film. I really do. Like if you're into anime, if you like anime films, if you haven't seen Perfect Blue, I suggest this movie. Go ahead and watch this. It is very good. I give it a 4 out of 5. It's not perfect, given the name. That's funny, given the name, but it's a good movie. It's really good. Next up, I'm just gonna show all these at once. It's the X-Files series. If you like detective shows, number one, and investigating the paranormal, this is a fantastic series. I love this show. I'm a huge X-Files fan. I actually went to a X-Files convention. That's where I met one of my buddies, my good buddies here on YouTube. He wasn't a YouTuber back then when we met, but since we've met, he became a YouTuber. He posts every day. His name is Pure Hangout. You might have seen him in your chats or like just around. He's an awesome dude. Awesome dude. But we met at an X-Files convention, and yeah, I suggest this series I have season. This is the event series, like the reboot, the official revamp or whatever event series. I have season 1, of course. Great season. Great kickoff to this series. Um, then we get into 2 of the later seasons. Season 8 and season 9. 9 was the final season of the original run. These 2 seasons are fine. They're not fantastic, but I still like them for what they are. Trying to get these to stand up. Let's get into the comments. Smooth J Stu, what's going on, buddy? Thank you for entering the chat. The next ones I'm going to show all together as well. This is a guilty pleasure series for me. I know these movies aren't particularly great, and I don't own all of them actually, but these are the ones that I do own. So the Resident Evil series, I have the Blu-ray for this one, the steel books for Extinction and Afterlife, and the final chapter is still in the wrapping. I can't personally suggest this movie because I have not seen it. I've owned it for a really long time and it's still in the plastic, but I really like this series up until this movie because I haven't seen it. Yeah, they're guilty pleasures, man. I know these aren't particularly good films at all, but I like them. And the first one, I would suggest the first one over all of them, even though Apocalypse is cool. I don't own that one, which is crazy. But I don't own Apocalypse, but that one probably is the second best to me. I just really like the theme of the first Resident Evil film. You're all going to die down here. And those are like horror action, I would say. These are not one to stand up. This is one that's not quite a horror film, but Nightcrawler. This movie has a tone that is so like eerie, it's almost disturbing. It's a fantastic movie. I watched it for the first time during my first 24-hour watch along or 24-hour live stream. And yeah, Nightcrawler, man. Jake Gyllenhaal, fantastic performance. It's eerie, it's gritty, it's kind of like it's kind of scary the amount of eeriness in this movie. So Nightcrawler, another one that's not quite in horror movie. It does have horror elements. Is Ex Machina, A24 film by Alex Garland. Fantastic film, but you know it does have some horror elements to it. A lot of sci-fi, but you know a sprinkle of horror in there. So I suggest this film. If you like Alicia Vikander, Oscar Isaac is in this one. I suggest this one. It's really good. Another one that's not quite horror, but it's pretty violent. It's like an ultra violent film. It is Dread, the remake of Dread. This one is really good. Another movie that I watched for the first time on my 24-hour stream. Really good movie. Really, I wouldn't say it's really good. I would say it's entertaining. It's very entertaining. There are some slow sequences here and there, but for the most part, it is, outrageous, fun, and very entertaining. But it does have that ultra violence element to it, so that's one reason why I would suggest it if you're into that. Another one is The Hunt. This is kind of like adult Hunger Games. This movie is pretty I wouldn't say it's like scary per se, but it does have elements of horror, a lot of elements of horror here. Um, it also is kind of a comedy, like it's also funny in some areas, but The Hunt is actually not bad. Not a bad film. It's not fantastic. Oh, it's loose disc. We got a loose disc. Good thing it was a DVD. Um, but yeah, it's another film to add to the watch list around Halloween time. All right, I'm gonna get some backlash for this one. I know, I'm gonna get some backlash. But I think there are some good scares in this movie. It's not a good movie, but I like it personally. It is the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. Don't hate me. The Nightmare on Elm Street remake is not terrible. It's not good. It's not particularly good, but it's not terrible to me. And there are definitely some sequences that freaked me out when I was watching it last year. So, the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. If you've already seen it and you don't like it, I get it. I understand why. Um, this is the end. This is a horror comedy of sorts, very very meta, kind of like based in reality, and it's just about a bunch of people, about a bunch of friends that encounter the apocalypse. They don't really know how to act. They don't really know how to survive, but they're doing their best, and their best isn't great. Given the cover here, but movie is pretty funny. I haven't seen it in years, but yeah, that's one that I would suggest. Simply Cinema. What's going on, Josh? What is going on, my boy? Yeah, and I know you're about to be like, AJ's getting out the old DVDs, but this is the only way I own this. I know it's a shame. It's the only way I own this film, but The Shining. I really love this lenticular, but it is a DVD. I'm sorry. The I do really want the 4K for this, but every time I see it, it's always like really expensive, or it doesn't have a slip cover, or it's just not the way I want it. And I'm not ever like in the position to get it. So The Shining, this movie is great. This is a fantastic horror film, one of the greatest horror films of all time. So, The Shining. I can't stop doing the lenticular. Here's Johnny. Let's head to the comments and see what y'all are saying. Luke Review says, I think I'll be watching The Screams this October. Nice. They are in this list, so not all of them, but Simply Cinema says, I've only seen the first Nightmare, but intrigued to see the sequels. I would say 1 and 3 are the best. I personally like 2. I know it's not as good as 1 and 3, but other than that, I don't really like that franchise. That's why I'm so hesitant to purchase the complete collection. Like, I don't even really want to purchase the complete collection because it's not very very good. New Nightmare is cool. I'm okay with New Nightmare. It's not even that movie's not even that great to me. But um like the first Nightmare on Elm Street and the third are the best. I got The Shining 4K with a slip and the black steelbook that has the yellow door. Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. That's what's up, man. The next one is a box set, so I can't really um, suggest every film in this collection, but I do like this box set a lot. It's the Underworld set, limited edition collection, and this pops off. And then there are each individual slip covers, which I love. I absolutely love that these each got their own slip covers. I'm going to show these off, and I'm going to show you the ones that I like and the ones that I don't like. I like the first Underworld. I don't love it. It is very, very slow moving in parts, but I enjoy it for the most part. The next one is my favorite of the series, Underworld Evolution. Fantastic horror, sci-fi, action film. I love it. This has become one of my comfort films. I've watched it like 3 times since I've got this set. Next one is Underworld Rise of the Lycans, and this is a prequel of sorts. And this is a really good one too. I enjoy this second most out of the series. I really like this one. The next one, the next two, man. The next two. Underworld Awakening and Underworld Blood Wars. I don't know, man. These movies, I can deal with Awakening more than Blood Wars. I did find some fun in Awakening. I think it was only because I watched it with my buddy Tyler, and we were like just making fun of it and like, you know, laughing about it. But this movie, I want to play frisbee with the disc. This movie is terrible. I'm sorry. I don't like this movie at all. It's not even fun. I'm sorry. I have a disdain for that film. So before I get deeper in a bad mood, I'm gonna close this up. And yeah, so the Underworld series. Next up is Halloween 2018. This is the steelbook for it. I like this movie a lot. It's not perfect. It's not better than the first Halloween film, but I like it. 2018. I pulled out the Chucky 7 film collection. I have not seen, the only ones I have not seen is Child's Play 3 and Cult of Chucky. Those are the two that I have not seen. The first Child's Play is good. I hear that the second Child's Play is great, but I don't really remember it that much. I did watch it, remember watching it, but it's not. And this has a lenticular too. That's cool. But I hear that Child's Play 2 is the best one of the series. I don't remember it being that way, but I did watch it like a long time ago. Bride of Chucky, it's silly, very, very silly. And then Seed of Chucky is even sillier. So if you're not a fan of like horror comedy or like silliness in this particular franchise, I would stay away from those. Curse of Chucky isn't bad. It does feel a little cheap. It feels straight to DVD or straight to streaming. And I haven't seen Cult, so I can't speak on that. But yeah, the Chucky series. Let's see. I'll be watching Child's Play movies leading up to Chucky season 2. I've only seen the first Child's Play. I hear that 2 is the best one of the series, so I'm gonna definitely give that a rewatch because I barely remember that movie at all. What's up, my brother? You already know I had to hop on. Horror is my main game. Yo, why don't I have Hereditary in here? That's annoying. I gotta change that because as soon as I see Fritzky, that reminded me of that. The only one that I feel like is straightforward horror and uses comedy very minimally is the first one. I agree. As far as I remember, all from there to me are definitely incorporate humor in one way or another. Yeah. All right. Back to the collection. Another one that's not horror, but it does have, Halloween vibes. It deals with wizards and witches. What do you think it is? It is the Harry Potter collection. I would suggest watch this entire series, but my personal favorite is Order of the Phoenix. I know that's not a popular choice. Order of the Phoenix is my favorite. Um, but ones that I would suggest for Halloween time is obviously the first one, Sorcerer's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, Prisoner of Azkaban, um, Deathly Hollows Part 1 and 2, and I would say Goblet, but Goblet doesn't really give me Halloween vibes. But I mean, this whole series gives you kind of fall Halloween vibes. So, take it as you will, but those are the ones I would suggest for Halloween time. The first three and the last two. Order of the Phoenix actually gives me like Christmas vibes. Luke says, "Come on, AJ, you're just naming them all now." No, no, I would skip kind of the middle ones. I would do the first three. Well, me personally, I would watch them all, but if I'm suggesting like fall, and Halloween feeling type, um, Harry Potter films, I would say the first three and then the last two. Prisoner of Azkaban, I think definitely feels most Halloweeny to me. Though the entire franchise can definitely get away with for Halloween. Yes, for sure. Azkaban, absolutely most folly. Yes, yes, for sure. Next up, you see it in the corner here. You see it in the photo. This big old behemoth of a franchise. Yo, this is a big old box set. Trying to get my buddy Smo J Stu to buy this box set. He's gonna watch these movies in October. He's got to get this box set. It's glorious. Even if you don't really love these movies, the box set is really nice. So, um, oh, there he is. Prisoner is my fave. Yeah, Prisoner is great. Prisoner is fantastic. Fantastic film. I think it's my second favorite. No, third maybe. They're all pretty good. Um, but yeah, so we get all these films here, and the ones that I would suggest is part two, part three, final chapter. My personal favorite, final chapter. That's a hot take. Final chapter. Jason Lives is everybody's favorite, so I would suggest it since a lot of people love part six. Jason Lives. It's good. It's just not my personal favorite. Um, I personally would suggest Jason X, even though it's ridiculous. I'm gonna show them off. Let's show these. So, part two. If I can get this to act right. Part two. Part three. Final chapter. I love this one. I love this movie. I can't get enough of that. Um, Jason Lives. That's part six. And Jason X. I really love this movie just because it's like so funny to watch to me. It's ridiculous, outrageous in the best way to me. I'm not bored with that movie. That's really all I ask from Friday the 13th movies. Like, don't have me be bored. That's really it. It can be out as outrageous, as goofy, as you know, wild as, ever. I don't care. Just make me entertained. Trixie said, "Heck yeah, I got the Friday Part 7 from my box set, signed by Kane Hodder." Oh, nice. Smooth J Stu says, "Why would I spend that much money on some movies I may not like?" I just said because the box set is glorious. Look at it. Look at it. This box set is so beautiful. How do you not want this? I don't get it. I don't get it. All right, moving on. I'm not gonna bother him anymore about that. Frisky says, I also gotta rebuy Halloween 1 through 4 on 4K. The last three just to upgrade and rebuy the first Halloween 4K because that one got signed by Nick Castle. Nice, never taking it out of the plastic. Friday Part 6 is definitely my favorite. Parts 2, 4, and 7 I also love. Nice. I wonder if AJ sells box sets. I probably could be a salesman for this Friday 13th box set. Oh, I forgot an X Files season. I also have season 2 of X Files. All right. This one I watched not I watched this one last year around Halloween time, and I was like, this is not a horror movie, but it does have like an eerie tone to it. It's a psychological thriller. It is Hitchcock's Vertigo, and Jimmy Stewart in this movie is fantastic. Fantastic. Frisky said, remind me when you said you'll be back from your semester, my dude. Definitely want to do a couple YouTube lives with you later in the year. Just hit me up. I'm not opposed to doing live streams on other people's channels. Some, but I'm not gonna be doing them a lot. I'm just not gonna be doing them here on my channel. Look Review says, I wasn't crazy about Vertigo. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I really liked Vertigo. It's actually one of my favorite Hitchcock films that I've seen personally. Uh, Jimmy Stewart, such a great actor, and he was phenomenal in this film. Kim Novak, she was really good in this film as well. But I just really like the psychological elements to this movie. It kept me guessing. It definitely did. It's more like a mystery than a horror film, but you kind of do get that vibe. This is Halloween 2018 again. I just wanted to show off that I have the 4K for it. No slip, but I have the 4K for it and the steelbook. Next one is Train to Busan, one of my all-time favorite horror films ever. Ever. I feel like this movie is massively slept on, but I do hear people talking about it a good amount. But I feel like still, like the majority of folks have not seen this movie, and I think it's just because they don't want to read subtitles or something like that. I don't know. But this movie is one of my all-time favorite foreign films or international films, let alone one of my favorite horror films of all time. So I'm definitely going to be watching this movie during Halloween season, in the fall season. It's so good and very emotional. If you want to see a grown man cry, put this movie on, and it's really this scene right here. It's this scene right here. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. It's this scene. Huh. This movie, so good, so good. The next up is The Others. Nicole Kidman. This is a pretty good movie. Don't get this movie spoiled for you though. I personally didn't, but and I kind of my mind was blown. But if I know if somebody would have told me the twist to this movie, I would have been very upset. And I probably wouldn't have liked the movie as much. So there is, something to look forward to. In this movie, there is a twist, so do not get spoiled for it if you haven't seen this movie. Vertigo is definitely my favorite Hitchcock film. It was only this year it overtook Psycho. Yeah, Psycho is fantastic. I'm gonna have to say that Psycho is a little bit better than Vertigo, but I do like Vertigo a lot. A lot. I think I gave it a 5 out of 5 because I do love that movie, but I just prefer Psycho. Um, as far as zombies go, my favorite are Zombie with an I, Wreck, and 28 Days Later. I just watched 28 Days Later not too long ago. Um, it was okay. I wasn't really loving it. I am gonna give it another watch. I'm gonna rewatch it. Hopefully, I enjoy it a little bit more than I did the first time. But um, but yeah, next up is the Final Destination series. I really love this franchise. I really enjoy this Final Destination as a franchise. I really love it. Um, my favorite is three, then two, then one, then five, then four. Yeah, that's my ranking for Final Destination. Great series. I'm so glad I have the entire collection in my collection. My boy Smooth J still put me onto this. Van Helsing. This is some dumb fun right here. If it was a little bit shorter, like maybe like 15 minutes shorter, this movie would actually be one of my favorite of all time horror films of all time. But this movie it plays around with the universal monsters and things like that. And it's just it's fun. It's a fun movie. A lot of it is. There are times where it slows down and I'm kind of like, come on, let's pick up the pace. But I really enjoyed this doing a first time watch to this. So this was my first film that I watched on the 24-hour stream. Yeah, it's a good one. It's not a particularly good film, but it's fun. It's entertaining. We got 7 people in the chat. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you all for stopping by. And hit this video up with a like and a subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Next up is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This is a classic slasher, very very classic. This is it's a tad overrated. This movie is a tad overrated, but I still love the ending. The ending is one of the most chilling endings to a horror film of all time to me. I love it. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, man. Um, the majority of this film is pretty slow. It's a very slow build up, but the payoff is great to me. Um, it is gritty, grimy. It feels real. And yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's a classic. Next one is a horror comedy. It is Tucker and Dale versus Evil. It's kind of a satire on and a play on uh like Cabin in the Woods, kids going out to the forest and you know getting slashed. It's kind of like a spoof on that because these two are like the nicest people ever, and things just start happening. And I'm not gonna give it away, but this is it's a hilarious horror comedy. It's definitely slept on. Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I'm happy that I have the steelbook for this. One of my favorite horror comedies of all time. The next one is Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I actually didn't love this movie when I first watched it. I didn't think it was that entertaining. I didn't think it was that funny. But like upon reflection, I think I was watching it with the wrong perception. I was expecting something totally different, and when I didn't get it, I just had a fit, you know. So I'm glad I have this steelbook. I like the steelbook a lot. But I am definitely gonna check this one out around Halloween time, and I'm gonna give it a rewatch. Frisky says, "Oh yes, Texas Chainsaw is a top 20 favorite of all time for me. And yes, the best usage of ambient lighting ever in a film is the last shot for me. The last shot, the last I want to say 15 minutes of the movie, I get straight chills. Next up is Zombieland. I like this movie a lot. Is it a little overrated? Maybe, but it's a good horror comedy. I do like Zombieland a lot. I do find it to be a little overrated, but I'm gonna give it a rewatch. Maybe I'll like it even more. But yeah, it's a dope movie. I like it. Next up, I actually picked this up yesterday. Is Child's Play. I know we already talked about Chucky, but I picked up the Scream Factory um, 4K Steelbook, so I'm excited to see how the transfer looks. I'm probably gonna pop this in after the stream and just kind of see how it looks. I probably won't watch the whole thing because I just watched it like 2 months ago, so I'm gonna give this a watch and just kind of check out the transfer. So I'm actually gonna put that over here because I want to watch that over after the stream. Next up is a classic. We talked about the remake already, but Nightmare on Elm Street, man. This movie was the bane in my existence. When I was younger, I saw like the beginning of Freddy versus Jason, and you know that beginning of Freddy versus Jason where they have that montage of like all the scares that Freddy like the big scares that Freddy, had in his past movies. It was like a little montage of that. And I watched that and it freaked me out. The biggest one was when Johnny Depp's character sinks in the bed and the blood splatters up on the ceiling. That freaked me out as a kid. Like that would just play in a loop in my mind as a kid. And I said, I'm never going to watch a Nightmare on Elm Street movie ever in my life. I am never going to watch a Freddy movie. Um, and then last year happened, and I was like, I'm gonna face my fears, man. I'm gonna do it. I've seen enough horror movies in my day, so I'm just gonna watch a Freddy movie, and it's probably not gonna be that bad. And guess what? It wasn't. It wasn't that bad. But I can see somebody that doesn't watch horror films often see this movie and be freaked out. I have a thing personally about dreams that if I don't know if something is real or not, or real or a dream, it freaks me out. Like I get to thinking about it and I get really paranoid about it. So the idea of this film really freaked me out. Rev 4K, yes, yes, flames, flame emojis. The first Elm Street is actually pretty scary, but then it just goes full comedy horror after that, which is cool too. Um, yeah, I can agree to that. This one is probably the scariest, quote unquote scariest of the entire franchise, but the best. Well, I would say this one is the best, but a close second is Nightmare 3. Honestly, the sequels to me that are worth it after the first one is 3 and Freddy versus Jason. I can kind of agree to that. 3 is a close second to this movie, and then I don't mind 2. That's kind of a hot take because a lot of people hate 2, but I kind of like part 2. My favorite is Dream Warriors. Dream Warriors is fantastic. It's great. It's a close second to this one to me. I do kind of like New Nightmare as well. New Nightmare is a little underrated though. To me, I like it. Yeah, I like it. I don't love it. New Nightmare is good, not great. But yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street. This one is a new release. It's an A24 film. Men. I saw this in the theater a few weeks ago or a few months ago. I can't remember exactly when it was. I think it was in June, maybe May. I can't remember. It was like around June, May area. And this movie kind of freaked me out a little bit. It definitely has an eerie feel to it, eerie vibe. And I think it does take place around the fall time. So I would definitely recommend this movie around Halloween time. And shout out to my boy Luke Ponto for sending this to me. I really appreciate it because I was gonna buy this movie, but I just didn't. And I was gonna wait to pick it up, but he sent it to me, so I don't have to. So that's what's up. Shout out to my boy Luke. Yeah, it's a good movie. The next one is Mandy. I personally didn't love this movie. I think I gave it a 3 out of 5, but I can admit that the scenery, the ambiance, the cinematography, everything about it does have like an eerie tone, a very what how I want to say um creepy vibe to it. It has like a creepy vibe to it. I love the colors. This cotton candy, pink, purple. I love that, and I love the slipcover too. So it's one thing I love about this movie. But for the most part, this movie's just kind of slow and uninteresting. Smooth J Stu says Men could have been much better. I agree, it could have been, but I still enjoyed it for what it was. It was weird. It was unique. It wasn't. It wasn't a cliche film, and A24 rarely puts out a film that everybody's done it before. We've seen it millions of times. So maybe the theme has been done before, but the execution was definitely different and unique. But yeah, so Mandy, I can't fully recommend this movie, but there are definitely parts of this film I can recommend. I love the cinematography for this movie. It is very unique, very it's good. It's a like spooky. It's a vibe. Trying to come up with the words, but they're not necessarily coming to me. It's a vibe. Luke Review says, I will make an effort to watch more spooky movies this spooky season. Please do. And if you do, let me know how you feel about some of the ones that I've recommended. If you watch any of the ones that I recommend. The next one is The Strangers. I've heard some people say this movie is the scariest movie ever made. And I personally wouldn't agree to that, but I will say if you are kind of a paranoid person, if you are really scared of like home invasions and things like that, this movie will freak you out. This movie definitely will freak you out. It's good. It's a good movie. And the sequel isn't as good. It's kind of the same thing, but just kind of done a little worse. But it's that the sequel is not bad either. But this one is pretty good. I would put this at kind of top tier horror films. It's simple. I like when things go simple and yet effective. The next one is Ready or Not. This is kind of a horror comedy, and the theme is kind of similar to Cabin in the Woods for me. And I really enjoy Cabin in the Woods, and Ready or Not surprised me because I didn't think it was going to be as good or I was going to like it as much as I did when I saw it in the theaters. But Ready or Not, starring Samara Weaving, um, yeah, she's a awesome final girl. One of my favorite final girls in a movie. Period. Luke Reviews says if uni work allows for it, yeah, you would watch more. Just learned I have classes on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Nice. That's a lot of classes. Ready or Not is a comfort movie. Yeah, I could definitely see that being a comfort movie for people. Um, yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. I kind of don't even want to show this. I'm just gonna show it. Whatever. I mean, it's the Predator. This movie is so frustrating because it could be so much better than it is. If they would cut down on so much of the comedy and the dialogue just was so atrocious. If it was written better, if this movie was written better, it could have been a banger. This movie just it was such a missed opportunity. That's why it was bad. This is not a good movie. This is a definition of a bad movie. Um, but I did find some enjoyments in some of the kills. Not gonna lie. Some of the some of the kills in this film were not bad. But that's really all I can give this movie. That's it. It's not a good movie. I'm sorry. I remember having a good time with The Predator in theaters, and that's enough for me, even if it hasn't aged well. Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're younger and you see that movie, you probably wouldn't mind it. But me, with my critical eye and like listening to the dialogue, it's just like cringy. It's just cringy. All right, this one is a 3 pack. It's I Know What You Did Last Summer, When a Stranger Calls, and Vacancy. I Know What You Did Last Summer is kind of one of those did it come out in the 2000s? Like it's either like late 90s, early 2000s horror films, and it definitely gives off that vibe with a teen slasher film. It definitely gives that vibe. Um, I like it. I Know What You Did Last Summer. I don't love it. It's not like horror gold or anything like that. So is Winter Stranger Calls. I like Winter Stranger Calls more than I Know What You Did Last Summer. I feel like that might be a hot take. I really haven't taken a poll on which one people like more, but I know people talk about I Know What You Did Last Summer more than they talk about When a Stranger Calls. Um, when a Stranger Calls doesn't get the same treatment as I Know What You Did Last Summer. Um, Vacancy, that's not even in the equation. This movie is not good. Vacancy is not good at all. Uh, it's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, and nothing else. That is hilarious. Kia Thatch, my cousin in the building. What's going on? Um, yeah, she's a scaredy cat, so she probably doesn't even want to watch this stream. I tried to show her Scream a couple weeks ago, and she couldn't even get through it. That was hilarious. She couldn't. She said, fast forward to the end." I can't. So anyway, I Know What You Did Last Summer is fine, but I kind of put them on the same wavelength. They're kind of the same to me. Vacancy is not even in the equation. It's not a very good movie. Um, yeah, I like this 3 pack though. I got it from Walmart. Next up is It with the lenticular, the Walmart lenticular with Pennywise. yeah, this is the 1990 miniseries of it, and I don't know. I personally do not love this miniseries. I think mainly because the way that it is constructed, the way that it's set up. I like how it chapter one and chapter two does it. Real 3D nose on them. Yeah, it kind of looks like it's popping out of the case. Um, yeah, this is Stephen King's It, and Tim Curry is great as Pennywise. Fantastic. Tim Curry is fantastic as Pennywise, but you know, I don't know. I do definitely feel like this movie is overhyped. This mini series or whatever you want to call it is overhyped. Uh, but yeah, that's Stephen King's It. Not a bad film though. I would still recommend you watch it during Halloween season. I'm gonna put these together. Insidious Chapter One and Chapter Two. One of like these are a couple of the like modern classic horror films. Insidious Chapter One, the first one is definitely leaps and bounds better than the second one, but both are pretty good to me. Insidious is great horror. James Wan was in his bag when he made Insidious. Um, Definitely one of those films that doesn't have to be violent to be scary. Um, yeah, doesn't have to be violent. Doesn't have to show blood and guts. So next up is Jennifer's Body. This is kind of a horror comedy, and I didn't quite expect that when I watched it for the first time last year. I actually reacted to it. If you're interested to see my reaction, first time reaction to this movie, go check that out. But Jennifer's Body, I enjoyed it, and kind of became a comfort film to me. I've watched it like 3 times since my first time reaction, and it's just like one of those films I can just put on and like just watch very, very casually and have fun with it. Next one is Last Night in Soho. This is a recent release. I believe it released last November, around there. But Last Night in Soho is Edgar Wright's latest film, and this movie was kind of disappointing to me, but it does give those creepy, eerie vibes. Definitely deals with ghosts and things like that. So, Last Night in Soho is Edgar Wright's first horror inspired film. I can't even call this a horror movie because it's just not, it doesn't give that vibe. It doesn't give the straight horror vibe. It's horror adjacent, I'd say. But it's fine. It's a fine little movie. It's fine. It's cool that I have it in my collection. Okay, this next film, X. When I saw it in the theater, I didn't quite love it. I think I gave it maybe a 3 out of 5, maybe a 3.5. I liked it, didn't love it. But after a good rewatch, I'll rewatch this twice. And I think this is kind of a comfort film for me too. Um, there's some subject matter in this movie that I don't quite love. It doesn't really add anything for me. Um, like the sexual nature of this movie, it doesn't really add anything to me. But the like horror elements and the vibes, the creepy vibes, the cinematography, Ty West did a great job with a lot of those elements, and I applaud him for that. And I really like this slipcover because it is embossed, and the X is kind of like texturized. You can see that, pretty cool. Next is a modern classic, a fantastic horror film. One of my favorites of all time, one of my favorite movies of all time and it is Get Out. I need this on 4K, but Get Out is Jordan Peele's best film out of the three that he's made so far. Get Out is fantastic, hilarious, scary, terrifying, all that. Get Out. That's all I have to say. Next up is It Chapter 2. I recently rewatched this film with a buddy of mine, Smooth J Stew, and I can safely say that I don't really care for this film, but I can appreciate it for some of the things that it does. It definitely has a vibe, a creepy aura about it. But it just doesn't give what it needs to give. And number two, it is very, very long. If the movie was shorter, I think I would like it a little bit more. And they wouldn't have gone as crazy with the horror elements as they did. This is the this is a perfect example of where less could have been more. Because I think the balance of chapter one, with the horror elements and the characterizations and the chemistry of the characters balanced out so nicely. But the fact that I didn't really care about them as adults that much ruined the horror elements for me. So yeah, I would say if the movie was shorter and had less scares and more focus on the chemistry between these characters, it could have been a lot better. This movie was kind of a disappointment to me, but like I said, I can appreciate a lot of things about it. Yeah, and I think we're gonna do a live stream watching this movie, so that'd be cool. Next one is Candyman, the new one, the remake. Nia DaCosta directed and produced by Jordan Peele. This movie, I didn't really like it that much. And the reason why is because this is another example of I didn't really care about the characters. Yahya Abdul Mateen did a great job in his role, but the way the character was written makes me not really care. And also, like, just pretty much all the characters were just, they felt kind of like caricatures. They didn't feel like characters in this movie. Um, and a lot of the time when I watched this movie, it kind of felt like, why? Why did we do this? Why did we make another Candyman? And it shouldn't feel like that. When you make a remake, a reboot, like it should feel original. It should feel, I mean, not necessarily original, but if it should feel unique to um this this particular project. It should feel unique and it should feel like a breath of fresh air to the series. But this just didn't. It felt like they were trying to do something, but it felt a little half baked and it just didn't, really work out. There were definitely elements missing to this movie that could have made it a lot better. Number one is the kills. They could have been a lot um, more impactful. The scares could have been definitely more impactful, and the character depth. So, not that I need to really care about, characters, but this is kind of a character driven film. That's the only difference. Now, if you're watching something like Final Destination, you don't really have to care about the characters. That doesn't really matter. It's just those people are there to, kick the bucket. That's just the fact of the matter. But when you have a character driven film like Candyman, you have to establish the characters and make us care about them to bring before you can bring forward the scares. For me, anyway. So that's Candyman. Next is Quiet Place Part 2. Quiet Place Part 1 is in here somewhere. Here it is. Here, let me just show them off at the same time because, you know, yeah. So I have this Mondo Steelbook for A Quiet Place Part 1, and then I have the slipcover for Quiet Place Part 2 because I didn't quite love the slipcover or the, um, I didn't care for the Steelbook for A Quiet Place Part 2. It felt a little too plain for me. So I just got the slipcover and I bought it for $10 at Black Friday. So that was a good deal. So the thing about these movies is I really, really love the first one. It's one of my favorites of all time. The second one I didn't quite love as much. When I saw it in the theater, I liked it a lot more than on the rewatch. When I rewatched this movie, I said, this movie just it doesn't feel like it's giving what it needs to give. I'm gonna just start saying stuff like that because I don't want to like say that these movies are bad because they're not. It just felt like things were missing. It felt like we didn't really need to revisit this particular family. We could have, had a kind of an anthology series of sorts to where it could be a totally different group of people in this same universe. I know I've talked about that with my buddies, and they agree. Like, yes, this could have been an anthology series in the same universe. But part two, man, I like it, but I don't love it. I think I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. So next is The Goonies. This is not a horror film. This is kind of a delightful coming of age treasure hunting, type film. But it does, I believe it takes place in the fall time, and it gives you kind of some, spooky vibes as well throughout. So The Goonies, it's a good movie. I've grown to kind of love that movie. Before, it took me a long while and a lot of rewatches to actually like this film because I was just kind of like meh about it. I never thought it was a bad movie, but I was always kind of like meh on it. Goonies is fine. It's fine. Overrated. Definitely overrated. I still think it's overrated, but I do enjoy it quite a bit now. Next one is The Witch. This movie is directed by Robert Eggers. This is a Robert Eggers film, and it definitely brings the creepy vibes. I'll tell you that. This is definitely a creepy film, and it is a slow burn. If you look up slow burn in the dictionary, this picture of this will be right there next to it because this movie is a very slow burn, but personally I do think it pays off. It's another A24 film. The next film is Us by Jordan Peele, written and directed by Jordan Peele. This is Jordan Peele's second best film, also second worst film because he's only made 3. And yeah, I like Us. I don't particularly love it because I don't quite get it. That's the only thing about the movie that I don't love. I can't really wrap my head around the messages trying to be said. The cinematography, the scares, they're all fine. Some of the tone I don't love. It feels like there should be more serious moments where there are joking and laughing moments. If they would have done straight forward horror, that could have worked better for me. But yeah, I don't quite understand it, and it makes me feel like an idiot because I don't, and I've tried. And I've talked to people about what they've gotten from the film, and they are able to tell me, what they've gotten from the film, and I just don't see it personally. And it's one of those movies that has an ending where it's kind of up to your interpretation what it means. And a lot of the themes in the movie, it's kind of like up to your interpretation what it means, and it's very broad, and I don't love that. When things are up to your interpretation in film, I do like it, but it has to be okay, it's this way or the other way. It's not like, okay, it can be anything you think. It can be anything. I don't like that. I like when you can tell me my choices and I can make my decision from my choices, but it's just so broad. I don't know. That's how I feel about Us. The cinematography is great. The vibe is fantastic. It's creepy. It's eerie. Go watch Us. Next up is just Stranger Things in general. I have season 1 and 2 on physical, and yeah, Stranger Things. Season 4 is the one where it gets the most creepy. I'll say that right now. Next is Zombieland 2. I already talked about the first one. This slipcover is a little banged up. It's okay. I didn't pay very much for it at all. But Zombieland Double Tap. This movie, I watched it in the theater and I liked it. I think I liked it more than I thought I would. But there were definitely parts of the film I was like, okay, let's just keep it going. Let's get the show on the road. I think the series it got a little stagnant at places, but for the most part, I do like this movie. I do. It definitely deserves a rewatch from me because I think the last time I watched it was in the theater. So, you know, there's that. Next is Doctor Sleep, the sequel to The Shining. This movie is great, and I've seen this movie twice in the theaters. One time when it was out, and the next time my theater was doing a screening, like a horror screening, mystery horror screening. So you didn't know what you were about to watch, but you just knew it was a horror film. And this was the one that played. I went to two of those. One of them was Get Out, and the other one is Doctor Sleep. And Ewan McGregor, fantastic performance, great performance. Um, it dealt with vampires, so I like that. Like a good vampire. Next is Halloween Kills. It is the most recent Halloween film featuring Michael Myers. I do like this embossed slipcover. Uh, yeah, when I first watched this movie, I was like, oh, it's pretty good. Second time watched it, said this movie is really stupid. Third time I watched it, it's like, it's stupid, but I like it. Fourth time I watched it, I said, this is stupid, but I love it. And the fifth time I watched it, I said, I don't care. I love it. I love this movie. So I have a love-hate relationship with Halloween Kills. I really do. But that's why I can't rate it, because this movie is kind of terrible written. Like, it's terribly written, but the kills are chilling. And like part of me feels like this movie is well made, but the other part of me feels like this movie is very badly made. So I'm so torn with this movie, I can't even give it a proper rating. One of the few films that I feel that way about. This movie is not a horror film, but it definitely has a lot of horror elements to it. It is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, released earlier this year, directed by Sam Raimi, written and directed by Sam Raimi. And yeah, this movie, it definitely gave me the chills. Gave me the chills, man. Sam gave you a Sam Raimi vibe. You felt Sam Raimi in that movie because of the style. It was very stylized. But yeah, love it. Love that movie. Next one is Ghostbusters. This is kind of a family friendly type of um, Halloween film. Yes, it does have a little bit of frights to it, but it's very mild. Very it's not scary. It's more spooky than scary. So this will definitely get you in the mood for Halloween time. Is Alien, one of the best horror films ever made. One of the all-time best horror films ever made. Ridley Scott was in his bag when he made this movie. Um, I recently watched this movie twice in 1 week. I was thinking about watching a third time, but I just didn't get around to it. Alien. I can't really, praise this movie enough because it's one of those movies where it's a slow burn, but it pays off. Like it keeps the tension going and it really pays off. Alien, love it. Absolutely love this movie. Okay, this one I can't quite suggest because I haven't seen it, but I purchased it because purchased it for Halloween season. It's The Craft. I have not seen this movie, but I picked up the 4K because it was available, and I was like, this is a pretty highly regarded film. So I'm going to pick it up on 4K and I'm going to watch it around Halloween time. And yeah, it gives me something to watch. So I hope that it's really good. And, hopefully I like it. Next one is the original Candyman, which did it way better than the remake. This movie is a classic, doesn't get talked about enough. This movie is fantastic. Um, it deals with uh, kind of a political message, but does it in a way to like balance it out almost perfectly with the horror elements. And I feel like that's kind of what they tried to do in the remake, but it did not balance out very well. Mainly because I just didn't care about what was happening in the film. So that just went along with it where I didn't care. But this movie, I did watch this 4K after I bought it, and the 4K looks great. It's not my favorite release because they just went with the plain, um, cover for it, the plain poster. Now, if this was a steel book, I would have liked it a lot more, but it feels kind of plain. It doesn't really, have anything special with it. I don't think it came with a poster or anything. Yeah, it just came with the discs. But yeah, that's how I feel about Candyman. I love this movie. Can't wait to rewatch it around Halloween time. Can't wait. Can't wait. Um, Next up is Jaws. This isn't a fall movie, but it is, definitely a horror movie. And it definitely brings the chills. And it's crazy, especially that third act. That third act is wild. Um, I've really grown to enjoy Jaws a lot. Do I feel like Jaws is overrated? I kind of do. Don't hate me. I kind of do think Jaws is overrated, but it is fantastic. It is great. It's great, but I personally, it's not my favorite of all time horror films, but it is great. Don't hear me say it's bad. Don't hear me say that. Luke Ponto in the building. What's up, AJ? What's going on? I already talked about Men, which you sent me. I appreciate that again. Thank you. All right. I feel like this stack is going to fall. So I'm going to actually move it so it doesn't. All right. Next is Scream 5. I personally like this movie. I'm not going to linger too long talking about this movie, but I like it. I did not see the killer coming. And yeah, I think it's a good movie. Joker, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. This is not a horror film, but it definitely has creepy, eerie vibes. And it's definitely kind of traumatizing. So yeah, Joker. Fantastic film though. The Batman is the next one, and this is also not a horror film, but it can be watched around Halloween time because I believe it takes place in the fall, and it definitely gives that fall vibe too. So if this movie was released in October last year, like when it was supposed to release, it would have been perfect because it does give that vibe. It gives that feel to it. Next one is the classic Halloween. This is my second favorite horror film of all time. It's so good. I can't wait to rewatch it. I rewatch it every year. And yeah, and I love the steelbook for it. I love it. No lettering. I'm an advocate for no lettering on your steelbook, especially the cover. It doesn't even have lettering on the back at all. Like you would think you get a little symbol, like a little Lionsgate or something down there, but no. Perfect. This is a perfect steelbook to me. This is perfect. He's got a little slip cover. When I purchased this, I did not think that it would go out of stock so quick. I did get it day one, and I think it was kind of an accident. I didn't even know that it came out that day, but I saw it and I was like, $19. It was like almost like not even $20. It's like, yeah, you're coming with me. I didn't never own the movie, so I was like, this is not double dipping. This is not, an upgrade or anything. I just, went ahead and picked it up, and I'm so glad I did because it's very rare. All right, next is the Alien franchise. I know I just talked about Alien, and I just, you know, um, sang its praises or whatever, but um, this franchise, it has some frustrating things about it, but Aliens, the sequel, the direct sequel to Alien, is phenomenal. Fantastic film. I'd still prefer the first one over the second one, but I understand why some would prefer the second one over the first one. Now, Alien 3, not great, but I don't think I hated it as much as most people do. And Alien Resurrection wasn't that bad to me. it wasn't. It wasn't that bad. I'm sorry. But it wasn't good, but it wasn't that bad. It wasn't like a 1 out of 5 or like half a star out of 5. Like it wasn't to me. I kind of liked it. The next one up is Happy Death Day. I think this movie is kind of slept on as well. People don't really talk about this movie that much. It is kind of a horror comedy. It's a time loop movie, and I'm a kind of a sucker for a time loop movie. I'll sit there and enjoy a time loop movie from time to time, and this is definitely one of the better ones. Let's see, I feel like it's loose. It's not. These just the Happy Death Day 1 and 2 just released on 4K, and I want to get the first one, even though I don't think this movie really even needs a 4K. But I just, for like collector's purposes, I want to get the 4K. But it is $30. I do not want to pay $30 for a film that I already own and don't really think it deserves a 4K. I don't think this movie deserves a 4K. I just don't. It looks good. The Blu-ray looks good. I don't really know what you could touch up on it. Next one is Disturbia, Shia LaBeouf film. It is pretty good. It reminds me of Rear Window. I haven't seen Rear Window, but I know the plot, so it reminds me of that plot, and it also reminds me of Fright Night without the supernatural element to it. Kid sees, a weird neighbor across the street, weird hours of the night. He starts suspecting that he's a killer or he's abducting people, and he goes over to investigate. He gets closer and closer, and he finds out some stuff that he probably shouldn't find out. It's definitely intense, and it's not quite horror, but it is definitely a thriller. It definitely is a thriller film. Next one is The Lighthouse. This is another Robert Eggers film, and it stars Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. All black and white film. I actually reacted to this film as well on my channel, so check that out if you're interested. I did a first time watch for The Lighthouse, and I did enjoy this movie quite a bit. I have not gone back to rewatch it. It I don't feel like this movie is as rewatchable as um as I thought that it would be after I watched it, because I was like, I really like this movie. I'm going to rewatch it soon. And then I was like, never did. I just never did. So it's a good movie, though. Next up is American Psycho. Um, Patrick Bateman. I mean, what else do I have to say? Patrick Bateman. He's wild. He's a wild guy. Good movie. Very good movie, especially the ending. Next up is Cloverfield. It is my favorite found footage movie, and I'm so glad that I have it on 4K because I upgraded my DVD and then got rid of it. So now I have it on 4K. I can't wait to watch this movie again. This is my all-time favorite found footage movie, like I said. Next up is Hitchcock's Psycho. I mean, I don't know what else to say. This movie is a classic. This is probably the most classic horror film of all time. Um, yeah, great movie. Um, I do feel like this film gets a bit slow at times. It takes its time to build up. It does. A little bit too much for me. But this movie is still a 5 out of 5. That's just kind of a nitpick. But I do think that this movie takes its time a little bit too much. I think Hitchcock, his goal was to build tension, and he did, and then he tried to build some tension some more, and then it was just like, okay, I think this was kind of the first time, you know, a movie was made in this magnitude. This movie was probably, I think it was kind of the first of its kind. So the timing for it was not quite perfected yet, but this movie is genius. It's great. It's a great film. So I definitely suggest Psycho if you haven't seen it. Next is Mother. This movie feels like somebody had a horrible, horrible nightmare, woke up and wrote it all down. And that's this movie. That's what this movie feels like. It has a lot of like religious messages and things like that. And I do kind of admire that about it. But this movie is just like a circus. This movie kind of feels like a circus. It doesn't even really feel like a real movie. It's just like just random things happening. And yes, it's kind of entertaining. I do admit that, but it's just like wild. Like, this is are you serious? That's kind of how like you watch the movie, like kind of shocked, kind of shell shocked. And there's a part with a baby in. Oh man, I'm not even about to get into that. All right, next up is the original Scream, the first Scream film. Um, Funny thing about Scream, I did not like Scream when I first watched it. I think I gave it like a 3 out of 5. I did not really like it. Upon rewatches, upon watching it with, you know, friends and family, it's good. It's a good movie. It's really good. Even though I do have still have some issues with it, it's still a fantastic film. And it's funny that my cousin, she tried to watch this movie and she was just like, nope, can't do it. Too scared. Too scared. It's funny to me because I don't find that movie scary, like at all. Next up is The Thing. It's another thing about this movie is a thing about this movie is I didn't love this movie when I first watched it. I think I gave it a 4. I liked it, but didn't love it. Then upon rewatch, I liked it more, and then I saw it in the theater, and now I kind of love this movie. I kind of love this movie. It's still not perfect for me. I think it's still a 4. Well, first I might have given it a 3.5. Now it's a 4, because there are definitely things that to admire about this movie, and I enjoy sitting down watching it. I actually had an urge to sit down and watch it again recently. Next is Parasite. This movie definitely brings the scares in the towards the end of the second act into the third act. It definitely brings some scares and it feels pretty intense, to say the least. This movie definitely is pretty intense. It's not quite a horror film. It's not. It does have some comedy elements to it towards the first and beginning of the second act. Yes, it has some comedy. But once you get to, towards the end of the third act, towards the end of the second act into the third act, it's kind of a thriller. So Parasite, fantastic film, very deserving of Best Picture at the Oscars, and yeah, I love this movie. Next is Evil Dead. This movie is so nasty and so gross. I love it. The movie is I actually watched this. I did a midnight stream, random midnight stream watch along for this movie last night, and I just was reminded about how great this movie is. Sam Raimi, once again, back at it. Uh, Evil Dead. This movie feels so low budget, but it's so effective. Um, Sam Raimi was in his bag, and then he went to do Evil Dead 2, and that movie is a circus. That movie is just random things happening for no reason, just wild, just wild. But I love watching that because it's hilarious to me. Next is Malignant. I finally was able to get this on 4K. When it released initially, it just released on Blu-ray, and I bought the Blu-ray, and I still have the Blu-ray because I love the slipcover. But I bought this movie, and I was like, I need it on 4K, but it doesn't have a 4K. But months later, they're like, "Oh, Malignant's getting a 4K." I said, "Purchased already." Already purchased, because I really, really love this movie. James Wan wanted to do something different. He was kind of tired of doing, Conjuring, Insidious, like those haunting movies. This is different. This is not, it's supernatural, but not really. um, because it can be explained in the natural kind of. There are some elements that can be explained in the natural, others not so much. But this isn't your straight supernatural horror film or haunting or whatever. Next one is From Dusk Till Dawn. This movie bamboozled me because I watched the beginning of this movie and I was like, is this about what I thought it was about? Because I heard it was about vampires. I was like, okay, I'm going to watch it around Halloween time. And I started watching this movie and I was like, this doesn't have nothing to do with the vampires. What? Then about halfway through the movie, this movie took a rapid turn in a rapid spiral. I don't know which way the spiral was going, but it was going. This movie is good though. I like it. It takes a huge turn halfway through. This is probably the biggest turn I've ever seen. Next is The Night House. This movie surprised me. Nobody really was talking about this movie. Nobody was like really interested in seeing it. But I saw the trailer and I was like, I kind of want to see this. So I took, some time and was like, I'm gonna go see Night House. Saw it in the theater and I ended up really, really enjoying it. Now I have not rewatched it since the theater, but um, I don't want my opinion of it to go down. That's one reason why I haven't rewatched it. I have a feeling that when I rewatch this movie, I'm not gonna like it as much, and that's sad to me. But I went ahead and picked it up on Blu-ray, and I just never went and rewatched it. Now this holiday or this Halloween season, I do plan on rewatching this movie. I don't know if I'm going to get around to it because it's kind of lower on my priority list, mainly because I don't want to be disappointed. But another reason is because I just, there's other movies I want to watch. So, but The Night House is good. I like it. I recommend it. My buddy John, he watched it after I recommended it to him. He was like, "It's okay." So take that with it as you will. Next is World War Z. This movie surprised me. I saw this in the theater. I was like, "This movie is just gonna be like a random little um, zombie flick. It's not gonna be any good." It was actually pretty good. I think I gave it a 4 out of 5. Brad Pitt, great in it. These zombies were actually kind of terrifying. They're fast. They're not like slow zombies. So, World War Z. Yes, I do suggest it. Upgrade is another film that's not quite a horror film, but it does have some hyper violence, some ultra violence in it, and it definitely gives that sci-fi horror vibe to it. But it's not a straight horror film. It's not. It's not. Um, wait, is that Dane DeHaan? Is he in this movie? But anyway, Upgrade. I was pleasantly surprised about this movie. I really, really enjoyed it when I first watched it. So I suggest it. I also have the Alien versus Predator double feature with Alien versus Predator and Aliens versus Predator Requiem. I have seen Alien versus Predator, but I have not seen Aliens versus Predator Requiem. I hear that Requiem is not a good movie at all, and I heard that is very hard to see what's going on because the lighting is very bad. Um, I guess I'll be the judge of that when I watch it. So yeah, we're in the home stretch now. Speaking of Predator, This is the Predator 3 film collection. The first one is good, second one, not good at all. Third one is good, really good. I really like Predators. I don't like Predator 2. I don't. Sorry. But this is a cool steelbook. I like the steelbook. So there's that. Next is The Invisible Man. I believe this is 2020, 2019, 2020. Yeah, 2020. This is a movie that I always want to rewatch, but I never rewatch it. And it's sad because I always want to rewatch it, but I'm like, I just never do it. I know we all have that type of film out there that we always, it's in the back of our mind. Oh, I want to rewatch that movie, but we just never do. This is the one for me because it's so good. Elizabeth Moss's performance is phenomenal, but I don't know what it is. I just never bring myself to do it. Next is It Chapter 1. This movie is fantastic. One of my favorite character driven horror films of all time. It Chapter 1, man. I love it. Next is Cabin in the Woods. At first, I didn't really like this steelbook, but it's definitely grown on me. I really like it now. And this is kind of a spoiler, not really, because they show this at the beginning of the movie that like it's all controlled. Everything that's happening at the cabin to these people are controlled. And yeah, Cabin in the Woods is kind of a satire of um movies with kids at cabins in the woods. These horror films, like, I don't know, like Evil Dead or uh some Friday 13th movies. All right, we're in the home stretch now. Next is The Conjuring, the 3 film collection. I can definitely suggest the first 2. I personally like the third one, but a lot of people don't. So take that with it as you will. Um, yeah, so Conjuring 1 and 2, people love. And I personally really like the first one a lot. The second one probably scared me the most. And the third one, I like the plot. I'm sorry, sue me. People said it was terrible. It was horrible. It's the worst one. It is the worst one, but I don't know. I personally like it. Next is Hereditary. The first time I watched this movie, I was not big on it. I was not fond of it. Second watch, I feel like this is probably one of the best horror movies ever made, ever. Um, it does so much right, and it's just it keeps you guessing. You don't really know what's happening, and when you find out what's happening, it is some of the scariest stuff ever. So, Hereditary, it's good, good movie. Um, Here, I'm gonna save this for last. I'm gonna do this one first. Blade. This is a Marvel movie about a dude killing vampires. Yeah. I don't own any of the other Blade movies, but I would like to own the second Blade. But I don't know if that's gonna happen. I don't know. We'll see. Um, I'll probably pick it up sooner or later. I don't know. Maybe today. Who knows? But I like Blade. The rewatch of Blade kind of made me feel like, yeah, it does take its time, and like there could have been better pacing in the film, but I still like it. I personally still love it. And last but not least is The Babadook. This movie actually freaked me out when I watched it for the first time. And it wasn't really even the creature that freaked me out. It was just the overall ambiance and tone of the film that creeped me out. It really did. So yeah, that is pretty much my entire horror collection. I have a lot of horror movies, but this is pretty much my entire horror collection. And a lot of these were not quite horror films. Like I said, they were, Halloween vibes, um, gives you fall vibes, things like that. So yeah, that is my Halloween movies slash shows to get you in the mood for Halloween and fall time. So thank you guys for stopping by. We had Luke Ponto, Luke Reviews, Kia, Smooth J Stew, Red 4K, Fritzky, um, Simply Cinema, Josh was in here, Tony Movie Chappie was in here. I appreciate all you folks stopping by, checking out my live stream. This was a very, very last minute live stream. As a lot of my live streams have been lately, but I've been trying to get a lot of content out before my hiatus. And that was the reason for this stream. And I may go live later. Who knows? I may go live and do a midnight watch along tonight too. Who knows? But yeah, I appreciate everybody for stopping by, hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button. If you liked videos like this, if you enjoy, videos of this nature, make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, follow me on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, Letterbox, TikTok, AJ Reacts 2, all across the board, all one word like this right here. And thank you for watching, and I will catch you guys next time.